The sky above Wax had transformed into an otherworldly canvas, a swirling vortex of deep indigo and bruised violet that stretched into infinity. High above the once pristine crystalline spires, streaks of incandescent crimson cut through the darkness like scars of war, each one marking the relentless assault of the Trion fleet. The harmonious glow of Wax's native luminescence was now intermingled with violent flares of enemy fire, creating an ethereal yet tragic dance of light and shadow. Every crystalline tower, which had once stood as a symbol of the Wax's artistic and technological mastery, now quivered under the weight of destruction. The spires, carved intricately with patterns that celebrated centuries of culture, were splintering into countless shards. These shards, still pulsating with a ghostly luminescence, drifted through the air like shards of a broken dream, each fragment reflecting the desperate, chaotic energy of battle. On the ground, the very fabric of Wax's once serene landscape had been transformed into a battlefield of contrasts. The smooth, reflective surfaces of their architecture bore deep, jagged cracks, with exposed energy cores glowing a sinister red as if warning of impending doom. The acrid scent of burning crystal and charged ozone filled the air, mingling with the metallic tang of fear, a sensory reminder that the peaceful existence they once knew was irrevocably shattered. Alpha stood at the heart of this maelstrom. His figure, illuminated by the shifting palette of destruction, was both resolute and conflicted. His eyes, reflecting the flicker of battle, scanned the horizon where massive Trion warships loomed. These enemy vessels, with their sleek, angular designs and dark, menacing exteriors, moved with a predatory grace. They unleashed torrents of energy that carved the night sky into erratic bursts of red and orange, turning the heavens into a canvas of war. The ground trembled under the combined weight of explosions and the fierce energy of the activated Wax shields. Around Alpha, his warriors rallied in a tight formation. Their armor, gleaming and imbued with the latest advancements in energy defense, shimmered with an iridescent glow as it absorbed and deflected the incoming barrage. The sound of their synchronized battle cries cut through the cacophony, a raw and determined anthem that defied the chaos surrounding them. Amid the clamor of war, Alpha's mind raced with both strategy and memory. In a brief, almost imperceptible pause between the deafening blasts, he recalled the peaceful days before the Trion invasion, the gentle hum of daily life, the soft melodies of Wax lullabies, and the vibrant, unburdened colors of their city. Now, those memories fueled his resolve. "This is our home," he murmured, more to himself than to those around him, as he clenched his fists and stepped forward into the heart of the fray. In a nearby alley of shimmering crystal corridors, Sela, Alpha's trusted second-in-command, shouted over the roar of enemy cannons, "Hold the line, Alpha. Every second counts." Her voice, resolute and edged with desperation, echoed against the fractured walls. The energy shields around them pulsed brighter in response, a temporary bastion against the relentless fury of the enemy. For a fleeting moment, the clash of technology and raw power gave way to a unified, almost tangible will to survive. As another wave of Trion energy bolts cascaded down, illuminating the battlefield with bursts of searing light, the Wax warriors raised their arms in a synchronized motion. The protective barriers around them flared into existence, a shimmering dome of multicolored light that danced over every soldier, every citizen brave enough to take up arms. In that critical moment, the battlefield transformed into a living mosaic of despair and defiance, each shard of light a testament to the Wax's unyielding spirit. The roar of enemy fire, the crackle of energy shields, and the distant rumble of collapsing structures blended into a symphony of chaos. Yet, within that chaos, a singular truth resonated: this was not merely a battle for survival, but a fight for the very soul of Wax. Every exploding crystal, every wounded warrior, every whispered prayer in the chaos of battle, was a stark reminder that their way of life was under siege. Alpha's gaze hardened as he addressed his warriors, his voice rising above the tumult: "Today, we fight not only with our weapons but with our hearts and our history. We defend every memory, every dream, and every hope that defines us. Stand firm, let the enemy see that we are not just a civilization, but a force that will never be broken." With that clarion call, the Wax surged forward, their combined energy forging a brilliant counterattack against the encroaching darkness. The battle had truly begun, and in that decisive moment, the future of Wax was being written in the flames and the light of their defiant stand. As the cacophony of battle raged beyond the walls of Wax's once immaculate sanctuaries, a different kind of storm was gathering within. In the quieter corridors of a shattered council hall, its crystalline surfaces fractured and dimmed by recent attacks, the true price of war was being paid in whispers, tears, and a palpable sense of despair. Inside the vast, echoing chamber, the air was heavy with the mingled scents of ozone, burning crystal, and the salt of unshed tears. Here, the survivors of Wax had congregated not as warriors, but as a community torn apart by the realization that every spark of energy, every burst of light defending their city, was drawn from the very essence of their being. The chamber's once pristine walls, adorned with delicate patterns celebrating generations of peace and enlightenment, now bore deep fissures that seemed to weep with the sorrow of a civilization under siege. Alpha, his armor still aglow with residual energy from the front lines, now stood before a council of his people, a diverse group whose faces told tales of hope, loss, and the heavy burden of leadership. His eyes, still reflecting the fierce light of combat, softened for a moment as he surveyed the assembly. "We have endured an attack that has scarred us in more ways than one," he began, his voice carrying the weight of both command and compassion. "But we must not let our hearts be consumed by despair. Our struggle is not only on the battlefield, but within ourselves." In the back of the hall, a small group of younger Wax, their luminous skin now dimmed with grief, huddled together. One of them, a warrior named Leary, clenched her hands as she whispered to a friend, "I never imagined we'd have to choose between our ideals and our survival. How can we fight when the very thought of battle erases the beauty we once knew?" Her voice trembled with a mixture of anger and sorrow, echoing the internal crisis that had taken root among many of her kind. Across the room, a more pragmatic faction had already begun to argue over the next steps. Sarah, a veteran strategist whose calm had been the backbone of many previous defenses, met Alpha's gaze with unwavering resolve. "Our people are hurting, Alpha. Every pulse of our energy reserves now comes at the cost of our memories, our art, and even our very souls. We are losing parts of who we are with every defensive measure we muster. The Nexus Core, our last, risky hope for an advantage, might be the only way to turn the tide, but it demands a sacrifice we are not sure we can bear." Her tone was measured, yet every word dripped with the bitterness of regret and the urgency of survival. As the discussion deepened, the chamber's ambient light shifted, casting long, sorrowful shadows that danced over the faces of those gathered. Some Wax clung to the old ways, arguing that surrendering even a fraction of their essence for war would forever tarnish their legacy of peace and enlightenment. Others, battle-worn and resolute, felt that the cost of inaction was far greater, a slow, inevitable erasure of everything they cherished. Alpha listened to the chorus of voices, each a thread in the tapestry of Wax's conflicted identity. In a quiet moment amid the rising debate, he retreated to a small alcove, away from the heated discourse. There, his mind swirled with memories of the time before the Trion invasion, a time when the gentle hum of peaceful life resonated through every crystalline corridor, and every citizen found solace in the shared beauty of their world. Now, that memory was tainted by the acrid taste of loss and the bitter inevitability of war. With each passing moment, he felt the weight of leadership intensify. Not only did he have to defend Wax from external enemies, but he also had to mend the fractures forming within its heart. In that reflective solitude, the distant echo of Lyra's voice reached him, a reminder of the dangerous technology that could save them, yet also threatened to consume their very identity. "Alpha," she had said earlier, her tone a blend of hope and trepidation, "if we must use the Nexus Core, we must understand that it will change us, perhaps irrevocably. But what choice do we have when the enemy threatens our existence?" Her words lingered in his mind like a haunting refrain, forcing him to confront the dual-edged nature of progress in times of war. Back in the council hall, emotions continued to surge like the unyielding tides of a cosmic sea. A fraught silence fell as one elder, her voice quivering with both wisdom and heartbreak, spoke softly, "We have always believed that our strength lies in unity and in the beauty of our spirit. Now, as war demands of us the use of powers we once revered as sacred, I fear we are forging weapons that may one day destroy the very soul of wax." Her words cut through the clamor of dissent, leaving a trail of somber reflection among those present. The internal divide was stark. One side clung to the hope that their identity would remain pure, even if it meant accepting defeat. The other argued that adaptation, however costly, was the only path to survival. Alpha knew that the resolution of this internal conflict was as crucial as the physical battle raging beyond the city walls. With a heavy heart and determined eyes, he prepared to address his people once more, this time not with orders of battle, but with a plea for unity in the face of an impossible choice. Stepping back into the center of the room, Alpha raised his hands in a gesture that silenced the murmuring crowd. "My friends," he began, his voice resonating with a blend of authority and vulnerability, "we stand at a crossroads. The cost of war is not measured solely in shattered crystals or fallen comrades, it is etched into the very fabric of who we are. I ask you, will we sacrifice our soul to preserve our lives, or will we find a way to evolve without losing the essence that makes us wax? The path ahead is dark and fraught with peril, but only together can we forge a future that honors our past and secures our tomorrow." As his words hung in the air, the chamber fell into a reflective silence. In that moment, every heart present bore the weight of a profound decision, a decision that would shape the destiny of wax in the midst of a war that demanded both unyielding strength and the courage to change. Under a cloak of darkness punctuated only by distant stars and the pulsing red glow of enemy engines, Alpha led his elite infiltration team toward the imposing silhouette of a Trion warship. The vessel, a colossal behemoth of angular metal and seething energy, drifted silently against the void, a stark monument to the enemy's technological might. Every inch of its surface radiated an aura of menace, with pulsing, dark energy conduits and arrays of sensors that scanned the cosmos for intruders. This was no ordinary assault craft, it was the heart of the Trion offensive, and its secrets could hold the key to turning the tide of war. The team moved in synchronized silence, their every step calculated and precise. Encased in adaptive stealth suits that dimmed their luminous forms, they advanced along a debris-strewn ridge that offered them a clear, albeit perilous, approach. Alpha's gloved hand rested on the hilt of his energy blade, feeling the hum of latent power ready to be unleashed. The crisp, cold vacuum of space seemed to press in around them, every sound reduced to a distant heartbeat as they prepared to breach the enemy's stronghold. As they neared a side access panel on the warship's hull, a narrow, almost imperceptible seam between armored plates, the team paused. The airlock loomed ahead, its surface a lattice of intricate circuitry and energy fields that flickered with an eerie, pulsating light. Through Alpha's visor, every detail of the enemy technology was magnified, the metallic sheen of the plating, the rhythmic, almost sentient glow of the security nodes, and the slight vibration that hinted at the lethal force contained within. With a subtle nod, Alpha signaled the commencement of the operation. "On my mark, we breach," he whispered, his voice a calm counterpoint to the adrenaline that coursed through his veins. The team fanned out, setting up miniature devices that would disrupt the lock's security algorithms. Each second felt stretched into an eternity, as if the ship itself were holding its breath, anticipating the intrusion. With a low, resonant hum, the panel slid open, revealing a dark corridor inside the warship, a passageway lined with cold, reflective surfaces that pulsed with the ghostly luminescence of Trion power cores. The air inside was charged, almost electric, carrying the scent of ozone and ionized metal. The team slipped through, their footsteps muffled by the soft hum of the vessel's systems. Inside, the hallways were labyrinthine and oppressive, a stark contrast to the open expanse of space. The walls were adorned with alien symbols and intricate engravings, telling a story of a civilization built on discipline and ruthless efficiency. As they advanced, the distant echo of mechanical life reverberated through the corridors, distant footsteps, the whir of automated turrets reloading, and the occasional, unsettling murmur of a Trion voice communicating orders in a language that resonated with cold authority. Alpha led the way, every sense alert to the slightest anomaly. His internal monologue raced, "We're inside their lair. One misstep could trigger alarms, and then the true battle begins." His thoughts were interrupted by the muted clatter of enemy patrols echoing down an adjacent corridor. Instantly, he signaled for cover. The team pressed themselves against the sleek, metallic wall, energy rifles at the ready, their breaths synchronized in a silent prayer for precision. Through the dim, shifting light of bioluminescent panels, they observed a pair of Trion sentinels patrolling methodically. Their figures were angular, their armor reflective and adorned with insignias that spoke of a rigid hierarchy. Alpha counted each heartbeat as the sentinels approached. In a fluid, pre-planned motion, one of the team members, a lithe operative named Mira, stepped forward. Her voice was barely audible as she activated a compact, high-frequency pulse emitter, sending a ripple of electromagnetic interference that silenced the sentinels' comlinks and obscured their vision for a few critical moments. "Now," Alpha murmured, and in perfect unison, the team sprang into action. Mira expertly dispatched the first guard with a single, precise strike. The second was neutralized just as silently, a whispered affirmation of their training and resolve. The corridor fell silent once more, save for the steady thrum of the ship's internal power. Every action, every breath, was laden with tension and the knowledge that a single mistake could unravel the entire mission. Pressing deeper into the heart of the warship, the team encountered a control hub, a spherical chamber at the center of which floated a pulsating core of dark energy, guarded by arrays of holographic interfaces and swirling data streams. It was here that the secret weapon lay, the source of the Trions' unchecked destructive power. Alpha's eyes narrowed as he absorbed every detail. The core's surface was inscribed with arcane symbols that glowed with a foreboding light, and the ambient hum of forbidden technology filled the chamber with an almost palpable dread. "This is it," Alpha whispered to his team. "We disable this core, and we cripple their entire offensive." His voice, both resolute and edged with uncertainty, carried the weight of their collective hope. Before they could move, a metallic clatter echoed through the corridor, a heavy footstep, distinct and threatening. The team froze. A door slid open with a hiss, and from the shadow emerged a towering figure clad in dark, angular armor. General Kraylon, his presence commanding and his eyes burning with ruthless ambition, stood before them. In that fraught moment, the air seemed to thicken with the promise of imminent combat. The general's voice, modulated and cold, reverberated in the confined space. "You dare infiltrate the sanctum of the Trions? You will learn that defiance is met with obliteration." His words dripped with contempt as he advanced slowly, each step deliberate and menacing. Alpha met his gaze, a steely resolve hardening within him. "We come not as conquerors, but as a warning," he declared, his voice ringing clear and unwavering, despite the surge of adrenaline that threatened to overwhelm him. "Your weapons may bring destruction, but they will never extinguish our spirit." The ensuing clash was as sudden as it was brutal. The narrow confines of the control hub erupted into chaos. Energy blades clashed with alien armor in a symphony of sparks and reverberating impacts. Mira and two other operatives engaged Trion guards with swift, coordinated strikes, their movements a blur of precision and determination. The room pulsed with violent bursts of energy as Alpha and General Kraylon circled one another in a deadly duel of wills. Every detail was magnified in that critical encounter, the hiss of discharged plasma, the screech of energy shields buckling under relentless assault, and the deep, resonant clang of alien metal meeting wax-forged weaponry. Alpha's senses became a whirlwind of sights and sounds, a kaleidoscope of luminous discharges, shattered panels, and the raw, unyielding fury of battle. In a fleeting, almost imperceptible moment, as energy surged through every vein of the combatants, Alpha seized the opportunity. With a swift, calculated maneuver, he deflected a vicious strike from Kraylon and lunged forward, his energy blade slicing through a section of the enemy's protective plating. The resulting spark illuminated a hidden compartment behind the control hub, a clandestine repository of data and schematics that detailed the workings of the core. The revelation sent a jolt through Alpha's mind. This was not merely a weapon, but a meticulously engineered device capable of far-reaching consequences. Secure the data. Alpha barked to his team, his voice cutting through the roar of battle. Mira and another infiltrator scrambled to interface with the exposed control terminal, their fingers dancing over holographic displays as they extracted the critical information. Every second counted as the battle raged around them, a swirling maelstrom of light and shadow, hope and despair. General Kraylon, recovering from the initial shock of Alpha's maneuver, roared in defiance and launched another barrage of energy blasts. The chamber shuddered under the impact, and fragments of alien technology erupted into a chaotic storm. Yet, amidst the pandemonium, the infiltrators held firm, their resolve unyielding. Alpha, locked in combat with the formidable general, fought not only with his physical might but with the knowledge that this mission was the turning point of their war. The struggle was fierce and unforgiving, a relentless test of wills. As the last of the data transferred onto the secure device, Mira signaled that the extraction was complete. With a final, resolute glance at the pulsating core, the nexus of the enemy's power, Alpha knew that the path ahead would be fraught with even greater challenges. But in that crucible of conflict, a seed of hope had been sown. The knowledge they had stolen would pave the way for a counteroffensive, a strategy to dismantle the Trions' war machine from within. With the data secured and the immediate threat momentarily abated, Alpha shouted a command that resonated with the urgency of survival: fall back. Regroup at the extraction point. The team retreated through the darkened corridors, every step marked by the relentless echo of distant battles and the haunting promise of what was yet to come. Behind them, the warship's internal symphony of chaos continued unabated, a reminder that the true battle for the future of Wax had only just begun. In the silent aftermath of the assault, as they raced toward the fragile safety of their extraction vessel, Alpha allowed himself a brief moment of introspection. The scars of this mission would run deep, etched into the fabric of their existence. Yet, the courage and unity displayed in the face of overwhelming odds had kindled a new resolve. The turning tide of war was in motion, and with every stolen secret and every hard-won victory, the Wax would reclaim their destiny from the clutches of tyranny. The controlled chaos of the enemy warship faded into a tense, nearly silent void as Alpha's team made their hasty retreat. Their extraction vessel, battered yet resolute, jostled through a star-strewn expanse, its engines thrumming a mournful cadence against the distant echoes of war. Inside the cramped corridors of the ship, every shadow and flickering light carried the weight of recent loss and the uncertain promise of what lay ahead. Alpha, leaning against the cool, metallic wall of a narrow passage, allowed himself a moment of solitude. The adrenaline from the battle still surged beneath his skin, yet a heavy weariness had settled in its wake. His eyes, rimmed with exhaustion, were fixed on the data pad clutched in his hand, a repository of stolen intelligence that now pulsed with cryptic codes and ominous schematics. The glow of the pad illuminated his determined yet troubled expression, revealing not just the scars of the encounter with General Kraylon, but the deeper toll that war had taken on his soul. Around him, the team gathered in quiet clusters. Mira, her uniform bearing fresh marks of the close combat, sat with her back against a bulkhead, mechanically reloading her energy rifle as if the ritual could somehow stave off the haunting memories of that claustrophobic corridor inside the enemy vessel. Sela and a few other operatives huddled near a dim console, voices low and urgent as they cross-referenced the stolen schematics with every piece of historical data and intelligence they possessed. Their whispered debates painted a picture of a strategy in evolution, a counteroffensive that could be the key to dismantling the Trions' war machine. The extraction vessel's interior, once a sanctuary of order, now felt like a somber reflection of Wax itself, a city that had been forced to reconcile its luminous heritage with the grim realities of battle. Dim lights cast elongated shadows across faces marked by fatigue and determination. In one corner, a medkit station hummed softly as it attended to wounds both physical and emotional. The soft beeping of medical scanners blended with the low murmur of voices, each word heavy with unspoken grief for comrades lost and for the innocence that had been shattered. Alpha's thoughts drifted back to the mission, the narrow corridor, the near-fatal confrontation with General Kraylon, the split-second decision that had led to the revelation of the hidden data compartment. In that critical juncture, every heartbeat had been a gamble, every breath a defiant act against an enemy that cared little for mercy. The stolen intelligence was not just a tactical advantage, it was a stark reminder that even in the darkest moments, there existed a glimmer of hope that might turn the relentless tide of war. Gathering his resolve, Alpha rose and walked to the central command console where the vessel's navigation and communication systems blinked with incoming alerts. The view screen displayed a distant cluster of enemy ships, ominous silhouettes against the vast darkness of space. Each ship moved with an almost predatory precision, a constant reminder that the Trions were regrouping, ready to unleash further devastation. The realization sent a shiver down his spine. The battle was far from over, and the cost of every stolen secret was measured in lives, in dreams, in the very essence of what it meant to be wax. In a hushed but firm tone that cut through the silence, Alpha addressed his weary team. "We've taken a bold step today," he began, his voice echoing in the tight confines of the command room, "but every victory comes with its price. The data we now hold isn't just a blueprint of our enemy's power, it's a mirror reflecting our own sacrifices. Tonight, as we gather our strength, we must honor those we lost by forging a plan that ensures their memory guides us toward a future where wax can reclaim its light." A heavy silence followed his words, a silence filled with the unspoken acknowledgement of loss, determination, and the palpable weight of responsibility. Myra's eyes, still bright with the fire of recent combat, met Alpha's as if to silently pledge that the sacrifices made would not be in vain. Around them, every operative and every survivor was drawn into the gravity of the moment, aware that the stolen intelligence might hold the key to a counterattack that could shift the war's momentum. In the dim glow of the command console, as the vessel's engines hummed a low, persistent rhythm, Alpha's mind raced with possibilities. The schematics revealed vulnerabilities in the Trions' defenses, chinks in an otherwise impenetrable armor of war technology. Yet, the cost of exploiting these vulnerabilities would demand further sacrifices, further evolution of what it meant to be wax. In that reflective quiet, the transformation of their once pure identity into something tempered by necessity and survival was laid bare. As the extraction vessel surged through the void toward a temporary safe haven, Alpha's gaze hardened with resolve. The mission was a turning point, not only for their tactical plans but for the very soul of their people. In every scar on the ship, every silent nod between comrades, and every heartbeat echoing in the darkness, there lay the promise of a future built on defiance and unity, a future where the wax would reclaim their destiny from the relentless grip of tyranny. And so, in the aftershocks of battle and the quiet moments of reckoning, a new chapter of their struggle began to take shape, one that would demand courage, sacrifice, and an unyielding belief that even in the midst of war, hope could still shine as brightly as the crystalline spires of wax.